I run a small studio that produces video music in a small way, but recently, as various creators have been producing their own content and releasing it on video distribution sites, there has been a noticeable decrease in the demand for creating sound files in the studio. In order to overcome the business crisis, I also began digitizing old video and audio data stored on magnetic tape, and this has recently become the main business that uses the studio. In this day and age when streaming distribution has become the mainstream, many people have never even had the experience of purchasing analog media such as CDs, DVDs, and Blu-ray discs to enjoy music and video content individually, which makes an aged man like me feel impatient and even sad that we are being left behind by the times. I feel sad and impatient to be left behind. Before such DVDs and CDs were created, it was common for us to enjoy content on magnetic cassette tapes on which video and music were recorded. Perhaps there are some old VHS or even older 8mm films left at your parents' or grandparents' houses. Unlike digitized data, such magnetic tapes are strongly affected by the environment in which they were stored, so deterioration over time is a major problem that cannot be avoided, such as mold and tape breakage due to physical contact with the head. There are probably many such media that remain in the world unnoticed, including 8mm film, which is valuable as a historical document showing family reunions and hustle and bustle of the city in the 1960s, and VHS, in which fathers in every household took pictures of their children when home video cameras were first becoming popular. There are many families who like to view nostalgic images, but the tapes are worn out, or they do not have a VCR to play them. Upon request, we borrow such tapes, adjust the image distortion and audio degradation, and digitize them so that they can easily relive the old days at any time. It is really heartwarming to see the clients who sometimes seem happy to recall memories of their deceased family members. Now, I think it was too long of a prologue, but when you do such work every day, you may come across some very funny images. They range from a child filming through a gap in a sliding door, a couple fighting that seems to be from the client's use, to what I hesitate to describe in detail as pornographic images of so-called personal filming. One of them gave me the shivers of my life, and I would like to explain it briefly, while giving as much consideration as possible to the dignity of the person in the video and my client. It all started with a VHS that a man in his 70s brought to me. The man is, shall I say, a first-generation gadget lover. He has a wealth of experience, having spent most of his salary on equipment and programming at the dawn of the personal computer in the 1970s, when personal computers were becoming popular in homes. His knowledge of recording media and playback equipment for video and music was so strong that even I, a professional by profession, was intimidated. He could barely play back the first few dozen seconds of the tape, but the badly mangled image seemed to show his ex-girlfriend, a woman he had been dating before he met his long-time wife. The man said that he couldn't show his wife these images after decades, but he couldn't bear to throw them away, and since he had no memory of having taken these images in the first place, he wanted to restore them somehow and see them just once. I was concerned that I might not be able to restore the images that were impossible even for a man with such skills. But, seeing the man's embarrassment and being driven by my personal interests, I accepted the job, with the understanding that I would only receive a fee if the restoration was successful. I immediately set the videotape in the special terminal that night and began to play it. What I saw was a beautiful woman in her 20s wearing denim shorts and a flower-patterned shirt, sitting on the edge of a bed in a bleak space that looked like a business hotel room. The woman put her hands on her knees, straightened her back, and looked at the camera for a while. Then, just as the mouse was about to open a little, the image began to be disrupted, like frame by frame, and was a boo noise. The bottom half of the image became messed up, and now the top half was disrupted. In VHS, signals are recorded on magnetic tape, and the recorded state is called a track. Think of it as a road or a railroad track, for example. Unlike today's digital data, if the head of the VCR, the device that plays the data, and the track of the tape do not match exactly, the frame-by-frame image will be out of alignment, and the image will drift up and down, or form a collapsed image. However, as the VCRs disappeared from the market, the old cassette tapes left behind in homes deteriorated and become magnetized. However, as time went on and VCRs disappeared from the market, the old cassette tapes left behind in homes deteriorated and became magnetized, and the pattern of playback failure increased. No matter how many tracking adjustments was made after the VCRs were somehow obtained. Since I'm a professional visual restoration specialist, I am able to repair tracking-related anomalies almost completely using an optical approach, which specialized professional equipment, and a digital approach with software, so I immediately set to work on this project. The image of the woman gradually became less disturbed, and with it the audio is getting fixed. As mentioned before, the woman remained silent for a while with her eyes fixed on the camera. But eventually, she opened her mouth and began to talk without hesitation about her name, the weather that day, and a concert by a band that was probably popular at the time. If this were all, the video would not be particularly strange. But it was about 3 minutes into the video that I began to get the creepy feeling. The woman suddenly began making strange movements, keeping her legs under the bed, holding her hand up in a Hail Mary pose, and repeatedly putting her back to the bed and getting up as if doing sit-ups was only her upper body. As you can see, when you actually perform this movement, if you do not hold your legs in place with something, both legs will inevitably float when you get up, and you will end up doing sit-ups by recoiling. The woman in the video, however, keeps her feet planted firmly on the floor, and only her upper body is moving intensely, as if bouncing. Moreover, the woman continued to speak casually while doing it, and her tone of voice, in contrast to the movement of her body, was quiet and unaffected, with no signs of breathlessness, as she were recording separately from the video. Here, I noticed an oversight in the audio waveform data in my editing software. I realized that the audio, which I had previously assumed to be recorded in stereo, actually showed separate waveforms from the LCH and RCH, left and right voices. Only the L channel became audible as the video disturbance was restored and the R channel was muted. The moment I switched the signal output to R channel, I heard a deafening sound coming from the monitor speakers, and I thought my heart would stop. The sound, which is hard to describe as either a voice or a sound, was as if a person's cry of "ah" had been recorded in multiple layers and strongly distorted. I was involved in recording of a band whose vocalist had a magnificent bass voice, and even though I am accustomed to blasts, an unpleasant sound filled the studio that made me nauseous. I turned off the signal output to the monitor speakers, feeling dizzy, but the sound did not stop. I felt a terrible chill and unplugged the speaker cables to tear them out, but the sound did not go away. I probably fainted shortly thereafter, but the image I saw just before I lost consciousness was of a woman with her hands raised above her head, her hair back, her eyes peeled back, screaming at me. The woman's figure was again crumpled and distorted due to the disrupted tracking, and she repeated the rising and falling figure at high speed like a coarse GIF image made of about 2 pictures. However, only the horrifying face is really looking at me clearly. Forgetting my age, I am ashamed to say that I don't remember whether I was passed out for a few minutes or a few hours, but I will never forget the bitter look of my colleague's face when I was tapped on the shoulder by a colleague who worked with me at the studio and woke me up. A staff member asked me, "What are you looking at?" He asked me. The staff member stared at the monitor with a dubious look on his face. What was shown there was a space that looked like a hotel room and a bed that has been edited earlier. But the white sheets on which the young woman was supposed to be sitting showed only a reddish-black stain that looked like a human figure with its hands outstretched in a Hail Mary shape. The stain extended along the edge of the beds to the carpet on which the woman had placed her feet, leaving a clearly recognizable footprint. Huh? Was she barefoot? That was all I could vaguely think about when I saw those strange images. I explained to my colleague what had happened and rewound the footage, but the VHS kept showing the bed with the creepy stains. The recording was puffed off in the middle. The staff patted me on the back with a soothing, "It happens." With such relatively enlightened colleagues voicing their opinions, I stopped thinking about the VHS any further. I told the client that the footage could not be restored and returned the tapes to him. The man was very disappointed, but I felt like I was digging up something terrible in his past, so I softly recommended that he get rid of it. Thank you for hearing me out. If you have home videos lying about at your parents' house or elsewhere, we recommend that you digitize them before they deteriorate irretrievably.